Hi there, it's Miss Jones again from Sew with Miss Jones. We are going to do a little bit of practice stitching before we sew this edge of your mask. We want to make sure that we are doing nice strong stitches there. There's going to be some stress on there because this shoestring is going to go through there that is used to hold your mask on. So one of the things I'm going to do differently this time is I'm going to use a double thread. Now that doesn't mean I'm going to take it through and tie the two ends together, because if I have an error I have to stop and cut my thread. So what I did was I got a bigger piece of thread, almost double what I usually use, and I put the two loose ends together. And I'm going to thread both of those through at the same time. Let me see if I can get them through there together. Yep, they travel together. And then I'm going to smooth my hand down to the other end where it's folded, and I'm going to make my knot there. And I think I'm going to use that quilter's knot and see if that will work. And it did, except for I had kind of a loop, and I'm just going to cut that loop off. Now you may notice that I have another little scrap. We've been doing our scraps all along. We practiced our straight kind of stitches, and then we practiced our slip stitch on the end. What we're going to do now is called a hem stitch. It can also sometimes be called a felling stitch, but we're going to call it a hem stitch. And basically we're making a little hem here. So what I did was I folded this over so that it was the width of about one of these lines, and then I just folded it over again a little bit. It really doesn't matter, because all we have to do is have something folded over twice so that you don't have a raw edge here. And put a couple of pins in there, and then you can practice. The one that is on our mask actually is supposed to be 1/2 inch wide, and we used our card to do that. Okay. Grab my needle. And these sometimes want to slide apart from one another, and remember, all you have to do is take your needle and slide it back towards the knot, make them friends again, and then just slide it back up. Okay. I don't want this to show on the outside. Let me scoot in here just a little bit. I am holding my fabric in my non-dominant hand, and my needle and thread are in my dominant hand. And I'm going to start at the very end, and so here you're going to do it on the end of your mask, right here at this edge. You're going to start at one of those. So I'm going to take my stitch, making sure that I hide the knot underneath the fold, because we don't want it to show even on the inside of our mask, because it'll make it look yucky. And I'm actually going to do a stitch right on top of that one. I'm not going forward at all. I'm just going to make 2 stitches right on top of each other right at the beginning. We really want the corners, both at the beginning and at the end, to have a little extra strength, because there's going to be some tension put on there as you pull the drawstring through there, the shoestring. Now, a hem stitch is going to be, I want it somewhere between 1/8 and 1/8 and 1/4 inch, so not very big. We're going to move over, and we're going to just grab a little bit of the outside and grab right at the edge. This is similar to what we did when we did our slip stitch, except for we are not going through a fold on the back. So slide over about the same distance, just a tiny bit on the outside and right at the edge of the inside. Don't make these too big. And you might want to practice and see if you can get them close together, because again, if you make them too big, this one's almost too big. They're getting a little bit better. If you make them too big, then your mask could come undone here. And so you're just going to catch that edge. So come over here, barely catch the outside, and then barely catch the edge there. Now remember, I'm using black thread, so it really shows up so you can see what I'm doing. And on the outside, I have some tiny little black dots. If I were using this color of thread, it wouldn't show. It would blend right in, but since I'm using black so you can see it, you actually can see those on the outside. If you were making a pair of pants and you wanted to do a hand hem instead of a machine hem, this is what you would do. If you were making a skirt or a dress or maybe the edge of a sleeve, this is the kind of stitch that it's one of them that you could use. There's lots of different hem stitches, but this is probably the easiest and the most common one. So little tiny stitches. Don't grab too much on the outside, because if you do, it's going to show. And I'm going to stop right here. We're going to pretend that I got all the way over to the other side, and I want to tell you what to do when you get there. So I told you over here we wanted to have a couple of stitches right on top of each other because we want the extra added strength. So pretend I'm at the very edge. I'm going to do a couple more. So 1, 2 right on top of the ones that I just did. And when I do the second one, remember, I'm going to hold on to that loop. And remember, and I have 2 threads this time, so I got to be extra careful. So I've got the loop. Where's my loop? There's my loop. And I'm going to take my needle and stick it through the loop once, twice, and don't just let go of the loop because you could end up with the knot being where you want it to be. I'm actually going to take my finger and just kind of lay it right on top of where that stitch is, and I'm going to slide it. And I've got my knot right there. And we don't want to have a little loose thread on the end of our mask sticking out. So just like we did with the other one, you know, when we did it, when we sewed the edge of the mask together, we're going to slide the needle underneath that fold just a little bit. Make sure when you go under the fold, see, and what happened is I went to the outside and I don't want to do that. So slide it through. Now I've got it, it's not shown on the outside. Slide it through maybe about 1 inch or so. Pull it flat, and then we're going to clip it. And remember, don't pull too hard on these stitches when you're making them. If you pull too hard, you're going to end up with them being puckered, and you don't want them being puckered. So I've pulled it flat, and then I'm just going to take my scissors and I'm going to snip real close. And then the end of that's just going to be hidden on the inside. Nobody's ever going to know where the tail is. Okay, I'm going to switch thread colors. I am going to do it in yellow this time, and then we will be ready to put the mask together.